Japan Airlines Flight 350, a passenger flight out of Fukuoka, Japan, crashed in Tokyo Bay on February 9, 1982. The crash resulted in 24 fatalities, and after a lengthy investigation, it was found that the crash was deliberately caused by the flight captain. The flight out of Fukuoka, Japan was a typical one, a flight made frequently and flown by many skilled pilots every day. But on February 9, 1982, a 35-year-old Seiji Katagiri was tasked to make this normal flight out of Fukuoka to Tokyo. Many articles go into detail about his home life and what his mental state was before the fateful flight that day, but what is most interesting is what his wife has to say about him in every interview. She simply says that her husband just wanted to die. There was no ulterior motive to his actions that day, no animosity towards the passengers and flight crew. He didn't care about their lives because he simply didn't care about his. To him, this flight was his last, and those on it were simply unlucky. Katagiri led an affluent life. Courtesy of him being a tenured pilot, he would frequently drive his Toyota Prius through his neighborhood and talk to his neighbors. Their accounts of him aren't great. They remembered him as a cold and distant, only encountering him when he was driving. He would exclude himself from local social functions, and to their knowledge, they didn't know if he had any friends outside of his wife. An Israeli diamond dealer, who lives across the way with his Japanese wife, Mizuha, mentions Katagiri's evening walks. "He's always looking down at the ground, and walks around the street like a zombie," says the 44-year-old, adding, "He seems very sad." The specifics of the crash allude to a random impulse. Seiji Katagiri in the middle of the flight just took control and forced the plane down into Tokyo Bay. The rest of the flight crew had no clue of Seiji Katagiri's plans, and even if they did, law enforcement think that they would have a hard time stopping him from crashing the plane. The flight began normally. Katagiri sat in the cockpit of the McDonnell Douglas DC-8 plane next to co-pilot Yoshifumi Ishikawa and flight engineer Yoshi Miyazaki. As their flight from Fukuoka approached Tokyo, Katagiri suddenly pushed the control stick forward, switching off the autopilot and engaging the thrust reversers on 2 engines. The co-pilots, Ishikawa and Ozaki, worked to restrain Katagiri and regain control. Despite their efforts, the DC-8's descent could not be completely checked, and it touched down in shallow water 300 meters or 980 feet short of the runway. The nose of the plane tilted down and broke as the aircraft crashed into Tokyo Bay. This resulted in 24 deaths and 77 seriously injured. Katagiri survived the crash, though. Reacting quickly, Katagiri swapped his pilot's jacket for a civilian cardigan and was among the first passengers to be rescued. The public was extremely critical of Katagiri's actions, not only because of his failed attempt on his life, resulting in the deaths of 24 innocent people, but his cowardice. He hid with the injured and dead to save his own life, and as the plane sank, he was being saved by first responders. The Japanese public and media would label him mentally disabled, dishonorable, and egotistical, among other things. The police investigation afterward shed a light on Katagiri's motives and mental state during his suicide attempt. Legal documents captured Katagiri's view of what happened. "When I switched from autopilot to manual operation in order to land the aircraft, I suddenly felt extremely queasy, and then I was overcome by an inexplicable panic and almost fainted." The voice recorder revealed that Katagiri had been shouting nonsense beforehand, and then sobbed as he awaited the crash. Even his co-pilot testified that Katagiri had been in a state of delusion during the entire ordeal. There were signs of Katagiri's mental state being questionable. A whole year before this unfortunate tragedy, Japan Airlines noticed how Katagiri was taking more and more leave, and how his co-workers complained of his conduct during flights. He even had a mental breakdown at work, resulting in him being placed on leave for a month, but after a mental examination and flight exam, he was given his old job back. Many people posit this moment where something could have been done, where the loss of life could have been prevented. Seiji Katagiri was sentenced to life in a mental ward, but after many years of treatment, the Japanese government felt that he was harmless, and he was released after several years of imprisonment at the mental ward. For the past 38 years, Katagiri has lived comfortably on a generous pension from the Japanese government and his past work with Japan Airlines. Hello everyone, I hope you enjoyed this new installment to the Horror Stories series, and if you did, let me know in the comments down below. If you have any other story ideas you want me to cover, let me know in the comments down below. Thanks again to the Patreon supporters who help make these videos happen. Thank you to Rachel, Jonas, Finney, and Hosamar. Thank you so much for your support. If you want to have a say in the next Horror Stories video and you want to have it early, these guys got this video a whole week early. Go ahead and check out the Patreon. All the funds go directly into the channel to make sure we can maintain what's happening here. And if you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. If you really like this Horror Stories content, go ahead and subscribe so you can, get more of it. And yeah, I hope you have a nice day. And as always, stay zesty.